All right, what's going on, guys? Reed Orlando here with another episode of Reed SPN Sports Podcast. First things first, shout out to the U.S. Women's National Team for winning the World Cup, doing what the U.S. Men's National Team can never do, and I don't think we'll ever do that, honestly, within the next 20 or so years. So we'll see. Let's hope they step their shit up, the men's national team. But the women deserve equal play, and in my opinion, they deserve more. They're consistent winners. They've won no, they won 4 out of the last 9 World Cups. They've won back-to-back now. They really are unbelievable, and they're one of the best sports teams in all of our country, in all honesty. Any national team, any professional team, they're just dominant. And to win 2 World Cups back-to-back with not an entirely new lineup, but definitely a changed lineup, just goes to show how deep we are and how good our soccer program is in the United States, for women at least. But anyways, UFC 239 was unbelievable. Overall, phenomenal card. The main card was great. First things first, let's go over the first fight. Diego Sanchez versus Michael Chiesa. Diego Sanchez, he didn't look bad in this fight, but Michael Chiesa, since moving up to welterweight, has looked unbelievable. He looks healthier now. That weight cut really did, I think, get to him. And I think now that he's at 170 pounds, I think we're going to see a better and better Michael Chiesa every time he steps into the cage. One thing that stands out to me is just his grappling transitions. He really controlled Diego everywhere. And Diego had good defense, but Chiesa kept getting his back and kept transitioning and going for different techniques. And it was really beautiful to watch how good his jiu-jitsu is. Now, Michael Chiesa is definitely one of the best grapplers at 170 pounds. Now, before this fight, he submitted, I forgot who it was. Oh, Carlos Condit. He submitted with that one-arm Kimura, which was super impressive. That was the first time I've ever seen that. I think that's the first time it's ever happened in the UFC or any major MMA organization. So that was really a super impressive performance by him. And Diego Sanchez, he's no slouch on the ground. People forget how good he is and how good his jiu-jitsu is. You got to realize that before his last win against Mickey Gall, he didn't submit him, but he got behind him and he almost had him in that rear naked choke. Or did he submit him with the rear naked choke? I'm trying to think. But regardless, Mickey Gall is a black belt now, and it just goes to show how good Michael Chiesa is overall, especially his ground game. It's really unbelievable. His boxing didn't look bad either. It's not amazing. That's not the best aspect of his game by any means, but his jiu-jitsu really is flawless, and it's beautiful to watch. Even though he did get submitted by Kevin Lee, I'd be curious to see that fight at 170 pounds, honestly, because Michael Chiesa is a totally different animal at 170. And I don't know if Kevin Lee adjusted to 170 pounds yet, which we saw in his last fight against Rafael Dos Anjos. Didn't look all that great. So next we had, after that, Luke Rockhold versus Jan Blachowicz. Now, Luke Rockhold, phenomenal fighter, phenomenal career, but really his last 4 fights he hasn't looked the same. He did have that big win over David Branch. That was David Branch's first fight after coming over from the World Series of Fighting, where he was a 2-division champion at 185 and at light heavyweight. So the thing is this, once your chin gets rocked, it may never be the same again. And he got rocked by Michael Bisping in that fight for the title, his first title defense. And then the fight after that, he beat David Branch, but David Branch did rock him and he did drop. And then after that, Yoel Romero absolutely snatched his soul. That was really bad. He knocked him out and then hit him with the uppercut after the fact. And then this fight with Jan Blachowicz, he got hit with the left hook again. And you know what? Your chin just gets worn after a while, and you can't take those shots as well as you used to. And he's had the 3 out of his last 4 fights have been brutal knockouts with him on the receiving end of it. So it's not looking great for Luke. He is a model. I think that he should definitely just retire and call it a day. Great career. And my question is this: has he really benefited from moving over to Florida and training with Henry Hoof? Because I think the better Luke Rockhold was the AKA Luke Rockhold. Now, he did have a bunch of injuries. He had that staph infection on his leg, which was nasty, which originally Jan Blachowicz and him were supposed to fight, but they rescheduled it. But I just think enough's enough for him. He's been on the end of some really brutal knockouts. This was a really brutal one. Jan Blachowicz looked great. I can't tell you what the next fight for him is because he did lose to Corey Anderson. And I think Corey Anderson to get the next title shot, but I'll get into that in a little bit. So big win for Jan Blachowicz, though. Huge win. He said he predicted that left hand in the second round, which is pretty crazy. But Luke has trouble with that left hook for some reason. Michael Bisping exposed that, and the rest of these fighters have really used that blueprint to their advantage and have been able to knock him out, except for David Branch, where he got submitted. But anyways, now we had the third fight. We had Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. I picked Masvidal to win this one, but sure as fuck not like that. That was one of the most impressive knockouts I've ever seen in the UFC. It was the fastest knockout in UFC history now. And honestly, it was perfectly timed. Now, I see a lot of people are saying, oh, Ben Askren broke the #1 rule of wrestling. He shot with his head down. Yes, he did, but it doesn't really matter because no matter what, if his face was standing up anyways, Masvidal would have been able to hit his chin with that flying knee. So he was really fucked there, and I think that, honestly, Jorge Masvidal knew that he was going to go for that shot right away if he came running towards him. So when he came running towards him, Ben Askren went to instantly shoot it for a knee, and he just went bink, flicked him right with that right knee. And the thing is this, Mike Brown actually posted the day after that Jorge Masvidal was working on that in training camp, and that was a move that he planned to use. So you know what? He worked on it, he saw an opening, and he used it, and he utilized that opportunity, and he knocked him out in one of the most impressive fashions I've ever seen. Now, was there excess amount of hits on the floor after the fact? Yes, but honestly, it's a fight. You can't expect to talk shit to someone like Jorge Masvidal and expect for him to be okay after the fact, win, lose, or draw. He's just not that kind of guy. There's certain people that you just can't talk shit to. It's just going to motivate them and make them even more nuts and going to make them even more willing to knock you the fuck out. And that's exactly what happened. We saw that with Conor McGregor. He got submitted. And then we just see this with Jorge Masvidal sending his face into another planet with that knee. So what's next for Jorge Masvidal? I think that he needs to get a title shot. But here's the tricky thing. So if Colby Covington beats Robbie Lawler, he 100% deserves a title shot. And the reason why is because, like I said in previous podcasts, he had the interim belt. Now, if there was never an interim belt, then it doesn't matter because you could have put Jorge ahead of him because of his two most impressive wins over Darren Till and over Ben Askren now. But you really can't do that if Colby Covington beats Robbie Lawler. Now, if he loses, you can put Jorge Masvidal in the title fight. But these two are teammates, for those of you that don't know, Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington. So there's a little bit of a situation there. We'll see how that plays out. But overall, unbelievable win for Jorge. He's finally coming into his own, and the fans are starting to come behind him. Jorge Masvidal has been an absolute stud for a very long time now. And what really made me love Jorge was that win over the Cowboy in Denver. He always rises to the occasion, Jorge, and I'd be curious to see him fight for the belt. I'd be very interested in seeing how him and Kamaru Usman play out. That's a very interesting matchup, so we'll see. Co-main event, Holly Holm versus Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes is undoubtedly the greatest female fighter of all time. It's not even close now. She's beaten every former UFC women's champion. Cyborg at featherweight, Holly Holm at bantamweight, Miesha Tate at bantamweight, Ronda Rousey at bantamweight, except for Jermaine Duran today. But she was a featherweight champ. But she's beaten every bantamweight champion ever in the female division, and she also beat Valentina Shevchenko, which I think Shevchenko won that second fight, but it is what it is. And I always go back and forth between Shevchenko and Nunes on who I think is pound for pound the best. But you cannot deny how great Amanda Nunes is. And now I'm sold she is pound for pound the best female fighter we have ever seen. And honestly, I don't know what's next for her. She's beaten every major champion. Maybe she'll fight that Brazilian girl. I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she's really good. She's 18-0. Caitlin Vieira is 18-0. That's an interesting fight, but you know how Brazilians are. Sometimes they don't want to fight each other, so we'll see. But super impressive from her. She set up that left high kick beautifully, and I've never seen Holly Holm knocked out cold. And that was a really, really bad knockout. That was brutal. And she did it right at the end of that first round. She kept going for that left high kick a couple of times, but then she perfectly timed it. And what really impressed me was she didn't even hit her with her shin. She hit her with her foot. And there's really not that much power behind the foot. So that just goes to show you how much force Amanda Nunes has in every single one of her limbs. Now, in the main event, John Jones versus Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos impressed the shit out of me. He did something that I've never seen anyone do against John Jones, and it's a super effective technique. Those inside low calf kicks, slow down John's mobility, get him to back up a tad, and then whip those leg kicks, and he did that beautifully. John did a really good job at cutting off the cage, but as soon as he took a step back or as soon as he stayed still, Santos ripped those leg kicks, and Santos had a lot of power. I gave him rounds 1, and arguably you could have given him round 2. John landed more significant strikes, but everything Thiago landed was more effective than what John was throwing, in my opinion. The 5th round could be contested. I think you can give that round to Santos. I think John won. I think he won rounds, I guess we could say 2, 3, and 4, but 5, Santos came alive, and he wasn't even able to stand on that knee. That knee was really bothering him, and he was still throwing a lot of power behind those kicks. Thiago Santos is no joke, and people forget that he beat Anthony Smith right before Anthony Smith moved up to fight at light heavyweight. I think that's what made Anthony Smith change his mind to fighting at light heavyweight. So I would like to see those two run it back. That could be a really interesting rematch. But Thiago Santos did a phenomenal job. John did well too. And you listen to his corner, they said that, Mike Winklejohn was saying that if you cut off the cage and you back him up, then he's not going to be able to throw those leg kicks, which was true. But as soon as John stood still for a second, he whipped those leg kicks, and John couldn't even walk out of the cage at the end of the day. Thiago Santos got hit with some really nice elbows. This wasn't John's best performance by any means. He still looked good, and it's just hard to fight someone with as much power as Thiago Santos. You just are a lot more cautious of that power, and you know what he's capable of. And I think John felt his power and was like, okay, let's just try to outpoint him in this one. Any mistake you make, and Thiago Santos capitalizes on it, he's got ferocious combinations, and everything he throws is so ferocious and fast that if he clips you with one, you're going out. He's knocked out some of the best at middleweight, and knocked out some of the best in light heavyweight. Amazing fight. Honestly, I was very intrigued by it, and I just thought that Thiago Santos exposed how to beat John Jones, and that's those inside and those outside leg kicks and those lower calf kicks. I think that is the way to beat John. If DC never used them, Gustafsson never used them, primarily all the people that have fought John have stood on the feet and used their hands. Glover didn't use that. So I found that really interesting, and I'm intrigued by that. And I wouldn't even mind seeing a rematch. Not right away. Let him and Anthony Smith fight it out and see who gets John next, or see how Dominic Reyes, and there's a lot going on. Dom Reyes, he's number 4 right now. Then you have Johnny Walker. He just knocked out Misha Cirkunov, but he hurt his shoulder. There's a lot of talent in the light heavyweight division. It's getting back. I used to always love that light heavyweight division. Growing up, it was Chuck and Tito, and now we got a good plethora of young stars. We had the Rampage Jacksons in the world back in the day in the light heavyweight division. I've always liked the light heavyweight division. Always been interesting. So we'll see, but I think John should probably fight Corey Anderson next. Corey Anderson's been hot. He did beat Jan Blachowicz, and Jan's coming off that huge win over Luke, and they were going to give the next title shot to Luke if he won in impressive fashion. So we'll see. Thank you guys for listening. That's it for the podcast. We'll try to get something out this week, maybe a review or just an MMA news podcast. But thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it.